Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are doing Dweeb Reviews Marvel Studios Loki. I am Mitch. I'm joined today by Cole. Cole, how's it going?
It's going all right. How you doing? Good
Dude,
to be
I'm
here.
excited, and I'm really excited to get into this show. It dropped on a Wednesday, which was,
Same.
ideal for us because we usually record around Tuesday, Wednesday time. And I like the pace that they're releasing these. They released WandaVision only a few months ago, really, and
hmm
we only had to wait less than a month before Falcon and Winter Soldier. We kind of find ourselves in the same spot here. They're keeping us with a constant flow of content. Going Disney Plus in itself is kind of firing on all cylinders with that because this fall supposedly we're gonna have more of the Star Wars content also. Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, more things
Yep,
to review for you guys, our audience. So
that's right.
yeah, let's get into Loki, dude. So
hmm
I'm just going to give a real brief rundown of the episode because we both, just watched it, and presumably you, if you're watching the review now, also watched it. So, spoiler alert ahead. But we pick up right where Endgame left off as far as the exit of Loki from the timeline. He's just grabbed the Tesseract. Which is the Space Stone, I believe. Is that correct?
Time Stone. Time
I
Stone.
think the Time Stone's the green one that's
Oh
on.
no, yeah, you're right. My bad.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
space.
think it's a Space Stone. So
hmm
he's just grabbed it. He takes off to escape from his capture in the Avengers Tower, right? Yeah, in the Avengers Tower,
Yep.
and then immediately lands in the desert. And not a moment passes before these TVA agents or the Time Variance Authority appear and arrest him. A lot of humor throughout this episode too, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we kind of get introduced to this whole TVA, what it is. I mean, there's a lot of exposition here. Frankly, they've not they've never brought up the timekeepers throughout the MCU. So now, all within the first half hour of this episode, we get the little animated summary that is seen at the same time that Loki's character sees it. So we kind of get to follow Loki along as he discovers what the heck the TVA is. It definitely gave me some you know, wartime PTSD flashbacks to being at the DMV. I don't know about you.
Seriously, I know.
uh,
Bunch of office workers meant for one purpose. Yeah.
which they embrace even, in the theme of it.
Yeah.
Very, very, very
Well,
bureaucratical.
yeah, because the episode says like they were
Or
created by
bureaucratic.
these timekeepers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's their purpose, I
Some
guess.
some funny scenes. He immediately gets taken out of his clothing and put into a prisoner jumpsuit and an appointment set before a judge. But even that scene where he's getting taken out of the jumpsuit, hey, well, this is Asgardian leather, and it just destroys it off of him,
Yeah.
drops him into a suit. The guy tells him, you know, to the best of your knowledge, are you a robot? He's like, I don't think I'm a robot, but what would happen if I was a robot? Well, you'd be melted from the inside out.
He like
So
hesitates for a second. Okay.
yes. So a lot of comedy there. I really enjoyed it. We get introduced to Agent Mobius, who is played
Owen,
by
Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson, yeah, of Wedding
hmm
Crashers fame, which also, I don't know if you saw, I don't know if I sent it to the group, but apparently a Wedding Crashers 2 is in the works now with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn.
Really?
Supposedly.
Huh.
Early pre-production. But
Thought they're supposed to live happily ever after in
yeah, I
that.
don't know. We'll see.
Anyway.
But yeah, so we get introduced to a lot of these characters. There's initially some headbutting with the head TVA agent that arrests Loki, and who we're gonna see in a little bit. But Loki is getting put through all these hoops, right? Jumping through all these hoops. He's waiting in line where he's the only person in line, and then the second person in line. The first person in line loses the ticket that he was just handed
Yeah.
30 feet ago.
No, he never took a ticket.
Or,
He
yeah, that's
refused to
right.
take it.
That's
Yeah.
right. Never took a ticket, and then he's trying to
hmm
tell him that the other guy wouldn't give it to him. And he
Yep.
just
Gets erased.
erased, which apparently is called pruning, which makes sense.
hmm
You prune when you garden, you cut things away. So
hmm
uh, he gets pruned. Loki has a oh crud moment where he looks through all his pockets to find his ticket, but he finds it, and then
hmm
set before a judge. And it gets kind of into establishing that this Loki is a variant. He's now created a new timeline because he escaped from the old timeline. He's not completing his destiny in the sacred timeline, they call it, which is the main timeline. And the court of the TVA holds Loki responsible for escaping from his own timeline. He even kind of tries to bring up, like, what are you talking about? The Avengers are the ones that went back in time, and they're the ones that essentially gave me the Tesseract where I escaped. But they very quickly brush by Endgame's time travel scenes by saying, nope, their time travel was always a part of the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
Now, I hope that gets explored a little bit more, because I'm sure for a lot of fans that raised a lot of questions of, wait, what? So this, because
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that I thought would, piss, us, the viewers off the most. It's like, wait, so Avengers can travel through time, but Loki can't.
But like I said, the only explanation for that we're given is that it was intended as a part of the sacred timeline that the Avengers do travel through time in that one particular instance, at least. So, well, actually, I guess not in that one particular instance. Also in the instance of Captain America going back in time and then staying there and living there his whole life, which definitely created an alternate timeline, but whatever. Okay. So,
yeah.
So to move past that, he tries to use his powers. He finds out that his powers are shut off in the TVA. Owen Wilson's character, Agent Mobius, stands up for him. And this is after we get like a brief scene of him in 1500s France at the scene of a killing of TVA agents. And and he's, he kind of returns from that. They definitely build through several scenes, and then in his outright expression to Loki, that in the backdrop, as far as the TVA agents are concerned, there's been attacks on agents with several agents killed now. And Agent Mobius is assigned to arresting or capturing or maybe killing whoever's responsible for that.
Right. And they called the murderer something. Was it variant?
I believe so, yeah. They called him a variant. So that's the term they're using. The variant, because you've created a variant timeline, I guess, or you're a variant version of yourself from the sacred timeline. We get this scene where, okay, he's spoken for Loki. He has Loki trapped in a time loop because of the necklace, the collar. So as long as that collar's on Loki, he can just reset him or rewind him in time. So Loki, who tries to attack him several times, is not successfully able to. Tries to escape, is not successfully able to. His timeline is being controlled. And then, it's almost kind of like a counseling session. He tries to get Loki to open up about who he is, self-identify. They talk about his past. He brings up actual scenes from his past on a projector. They're like playing out the life that he's lived so far. And
I was grateful for that whole scene. Like, yes, it can be seen as like, oh, this is just a cheating way of getting through things fast. But that's why I liked it. It's like, because we're dealing with, the first Avengers Loki.
Yes, and it's an imaginative and inventive way of addressing a lot of things and bringing up the topic of Loki's intended path, because, we, the audience, you're right. We've already traveled with Loki. We've already taken this journey with him. And this is Loki, who is a villain, just from the Avengers 1, which for us was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, in theory, I think that it would have upset a lot of viewers had they not touched at all on who Loki has grown to be, because he dies in Endgame a hero, right? And he really gets the hero status in Thor Ragnarok. And and now, through this particular, he dies in Infinity War, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Infinity War.
Yeah, sorry.
Infinity War and Endgame, I see them all as one.
Yeah, they're kind of one movie. He dies in Infinity War, and his death is earned. Like, he's actually doing the right thing. He tries to take out Thanos. He contributed a lot to Thanos even getting where he is right now, and he tries to he holds himself responsible and acts responsible for Thanos when he tries to kill him. So we saw a lot of growth, and all that growth is not here yet with this Loki, but we did see a lot of steps going towards that, which was nice, especially with that highlight reel being shown his mother Frigga's death. The whole chase scene where he finds out that Tesseract's not going to help him here, that none of the Infinity Stones have power in the TVA. And then when he gets the opportunity to play through his own future, what he has not seen yet, the death of his father, the bonding with his brother, and his initial sacrifice, or his eventual sacrifice at the beginning of Infinity War.
In the hands of Thanos. And we're assuming like he knows who Thanos is, since Thanos gave him that army to invade Earth, which wasn't too
so he definitely knows Thanos. He definitely knows Thanos because in Avengers we have that first scene where he meets Thanos. Remember?
Like Thanos's like henchman.
Yeah, whatever right-hand man guy. So
we never see him talking to Thanos before, but we assume he knows who Thanos is.
So in this scene, he shows emotional from it. He's definitely self-reflecting when eventually him and Owen Wilson meet back up, and we get those words that he says to Owen Wilson's character Mobius. Sorry, I'll just call him Mobius from now on.
Mobius.
Where he kind of self-identifies as who he is, that he is weak, that the reason why he does the mean things that he does is to be seen as powerful, to gain control, because he's fearful and he's weak. And, there's with Loki, there's always the chance, though, that he doesn't actually mean anything he's saying. Yeah.
I know. I was about to bring it up. But then again, we're dealing with Loki here, master of deception. And so, he'll I think he's still in for his self-interest and, long run. He's like, I can't go back. And that was his self-realization and everything. But yeah, like at some point, you haven't gotten to it yet, but we're dealing with this other Loki version. It's like at some point they're going to meet up and the Lokis are going to talk, and the bad Loki is going to try and convince him to do something. I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, no, so that's exactly what's most interesting. And really what I thought most of our conversation would be from this episode will take place along those lines. Now, just to get to the end real quick, because we're really close to it now. Eventually, through the scene that involves, Loki trying to run from the TVA agents, he gets away from Mobius. Even though he doesn't have his powers in this world, he's still a tricky guy. So he picks Mobius's pocket. He gets control of the little machine that's controlling him, takes off his collar, and then essentially gets greenlit by the agents to be erased or pruned. He runs around the building. He starts to realize that, it's he doesn't have any power here. He even says, "Is this the greatest power in the universe?"
Yeah,
he says that
that lobbyist just showed him a desk drawer of Infinity Stones
that are all worthless here. Yeah. Some people use them as paperweights. We actually have a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, he comes face to face with kind of the immovable force, right? He's like, oh, I cannot do anything here. The strongest thing in the universe that I even know of, that somebody can snap their fingers and kill the universe with, is nothing here. It's not powerful. And that's kind of where he gets to where he is. And, he'd already had a conversation when he was being transported by Agent Mobius about, how ridiculous this idea of the timekeepers is. He goes, what is it? You just, worship these 3 space lizards?
Yeah.
But, after we've been given all the insight that we have, and after this kind of scene where he accepts, or I shouldn't even say accepts, learns about what is supposed to happen to him in the sacred timeline, we get this scene where Agent Mobius says the reason why he saved Loki from being erased was because he wants his help in finding the variant that's responsible for the deaths of the TVA agents. And when Loki asks why, he says, because it's you, right? And that's why it kind of ties back to why he was asking the therapist type questions about how well do you know yourself, because because they're going to be hunting for himself. Now, a lot of questions raised from this. So we know there's another variant, another time variant that is Loki, and that this Loki is waging like a war against the TVA agents trying to kill him.
And we don't know his goal.
We don't know his goal. We don't know anything about it. We don't even know the way. I mean, they show us one scene of like him lighting them on fire back in
but not even
times.
not even a full visual of his face. So
Yes,
like, and this kind of where I point to you, Mitch. Like, is it going to be a girl version of Loki? Or...
Could be, right? So like one of the most significant defining factors of Loki is that he is a shapeshifter. And it plays a huge role in the comics. It's not really played much of a role in the movies aside from a scene here or there. You'll remember that he shapeshifts into Odin at the end of Thor 2, and then is living life as Odin, has a statue built to Loki and all that stuff at the very beginning of Thor Ragnarok.
And like the occasional mocking when he's walking with Thor.
Yes.
He's like, do you like this form? Do you like this form?
Yeah. But in the movies, obviously they have Tom Hiddleston. They like that actor. They don't really want to take Loki out of that actor's persona much.
Right.
As a villain, though, acting opposite of Tom Hiddleston, now they can't, because they could do you're going to play both the villain and the hero. You're going to be, which keeps bringing me back to, like, do you remember Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy? The Crumb, is it the Crumb family?
Crumbs, Crumb or Crump, with a P, something.
Right, so they could do that. They could do that where he plays every character. He's the villain and the good guy, and they might. Who knows? But I think it would be a chance for them to kind of demonstrate his shape-shifting abilities. If maybe he's Lady Loki from the comics, or maybe he's any of the other forms that he's taken before, and he's just portrayed by a different actor, which would be fine too. I think that this story is the most captivating to me off the first episode alone of the 3 Marvel shows that we've seen so far. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, exciting action. We loved that. But it was ultimately, well, you know what? It's always the same thing. I don't even know why I beat around the bush anymore. So the storyline of Loki's going to be good Loki versus evil Loki? What, just like
your point
Falcon
again.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier was, it's Captain America versus evil Captain America. WandaVision was, guess who the villain is? Evil Witch. Oh, great.
Evil version of herself.
Yeah, it's definitely the Marvel. It's definitely the Marvel,
there's just
structure,
an extra taste.
the map.
Yeah. There's an extra taste of symbolism in that, because you said it earlier, it's like both hero and villain. Like, that describes Loki in a nutshell.
Yes.
Like, and so we're dealing with potentially a better version of Loki as the main character, the main Loki, versus an evil version of Loki.
Well, I think they might be able to break the mold. I don't know that they will, because it's Marvel, but I think they could break the mold here, because here what they have is Loki, and he's the hero of the story, but he's also not really a hero. And this Loki in particular is not a hero. It's possible that when he was getting emotional at the end of being able to see his own future, it's possible that he wasn't really emotional about
his mom,
becoming a better person.
Oh, right.
But he was more upset at the idea that his story was pre-written. He could just be so offended by being told this is how he's supposed to be that it has the opposite effect of him, and now he doubles down on being the villain.
Down.
And
he's just on his way to becoming this evil variant.
Exactly. And it could be that the evil variant that they want him to help find is not some other Loki that spun off the timeline, but is this same Loki just in the future, who's now going back in time and killing TVA agents, maybe for whatever they did to him.
Well, and that's the other big question. It's like, what kind of what version of Loki is this? Is he a future Loki? Is he a past Loki? That, he's up to shenanigans. It can't be a past because he would have remembered it, but it's a different timeline Loki, so who knows?
The way that they introduced it, to me, it sounded like they were saying it's a different variant of Loki, but I don't know. I just that the with what we know about villain Loki and Loki's whole thing, has a problem with authority. He doesn't want to do what his father says.
Right.
It's he has this constant duality between bouncing between he loves his father and mother, he loves Thor, and he hates his father and mother and hates Thor. He's
Right.
mischievous,
Hmm.
but I think Agent Mobius did point out he's not really that mischievous. I don't know why you're the god of mischief, but really he
Why do you like killing people so much or hurting
yeah,
people? Right.
exactly, right.
Hmm.
And he's very torn between kind of these two Lokis. Between
Hmm.
Loki that wants power, wants to be king, wants to be adored, wants to be worshipped, wants to be served on and waited on, and a Loki that, has actually been raised right, has a loving mother and father, is definitely in a different position than his adopted brother Thor, because remember, he's a giant, he's not a
Right.
god.
He's an ice giant.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he's an ice giant.
Half. Or
And
no, he's fully.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's full, and he
Hmm.
learned the magic that allows him to take the form that he has right now from
Hmm.
his mother, from Frigga.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, this is the other thing about shapeshifting Loki. Tom Hiddleston is not like that persona is not Loki. That's not what Loki looks like. Loki is an
Hmm.
ice giant,
Right.
but he just walks around in this form. So him being
Mm.
able to easily shapeshift in other forms totally works too.
Yeah. Could be
And
anyone.
yeah,
But
could be
like,
anybody.
yeah, bringing back to that big question of like what Loki, this bad Loki is, like I can see them eventually, you know, giving a whole story into this evil Loki of how,
Oh yeah,
like in Thor Ragnarok, when he passes by the Tesseract and grabs it, like he just teleports in that scenario,
yeah,
right? And then that's the bad Loki right there, going off the from Thor Ragnarok,
yeah.
but or whenever he has the Tesseract.
It, it'll definitely be interesting. It'll
Hmm.
definitely be interesting to see what this is. My bet is on future version of this Loki, but who knows?
Yeah.
It's there's always the possibility that
Hmm.
though we're gonna get several scenes with the TVA and Loki working alongside the TVA, but it's 100% possible that Loki ends up working with Loki. That
Yeah,
this Loki ends up
exactly.
working with future Loki, and that both Lokis then take on the TVA. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't know.
Well,
So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
we can definitely expect an eventual interaction between the two Lokis and the bad Loki trying to convince him, you know,
Yeah.
of his goal,
And
whatever it may be.
the thing I'm really curious about. So there is a scene at the very end. You get him asking Agent Mobius, "I can't return to my original timeline, can I?" And I don't know. Does he mean that you guys won't let me, or does he mean that like I literally can't? Like it's not possible to even go back there? Because if it's not possible to even go back to his original timeline, then the interaction of Loki and the Avengers is over.
Hmm.
Loki is dead in that universe. This Loki has now been removed from that timeline. He can never go back into the movies or anything like that. That's if that's the case. If that's what he meant and that's what the answer meant when he was told that he couldn't go back to his timeline, then perhaps that's why. If that is the case, then this show might be the swan song of Loki because
Hmm.
we're always wanting to kind of be surprised by the movies, but in the real world here, we do hear about contracts and negotiations and plans for
Right.
movies before they come to pass. But, we've been told that Thor Love and Thunder, the next Thor movie, which comes out next year, I think, or later this year, I'll have to check on that.
Something.
We've been told that is Chris Hemsworth's last Thor appearance, and that the
Mm.
mantle of Thor will be carried on by probably Natalie Portman there in the
Hmm.
Jane Foster character.
Yeah.
If that's the case, do they bring back Tom Hiddleston as Loki without Thor? I don't think they do. So this could
But
very well be the swan song, and we're going to be introduced to it. What happens with Loki's ultimate, story and tale from here
yeah,
in this series?
it could be the last of Loki, but then again, we're just at the first episode of Loki, and there's so much of the TVA that is yet to be revealed. Like I'm sure the writers can come up with something to
We'll
put him
see.
back in our timeline, but I mean, it can go any which way from here
Or
on out.
I mean, there's also the possibility that if this other Loki is Lady Loki, that at the end of this series, she's the
Um,
Loki that carries forward. Because in the comics, opposite of the female version of Thor was the female version of Loki. So who
that's
knows?
right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Either way, I can say at the end of this episode, very interested, excited now for next week and the release of the next episode. I want to see what happens here. I loved the character building. I personally love that like DVA being like a or TVA being like a DMV bureaucracy type thing. It was
Yep.
funny. It's interesting.
Hmm.
They introduced a lot of interesting characters like that Casey guy who has spent his entire life behind that desk and
Right.
just
Like.
the other things like that. It's really interesting.
Mhm.
There was kind of that back and forth between the judge and Agent Mobius that makes you think like,
Mhm.
oh, is there like some
Romantic thing.
romantic history here?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, uh, it seems like you and I are probably in similar spots on this show. You enjoyed it a lot as well.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much ditto. um, this was the most enjoyable because, like, I don't know if it's I just yesterday I rewatched Endgame,
Mhm.
and but it re-showed a bunch of the clips from the movies, and it's really the closest to the MCU universe. Like, when I first heard they're coming out with a Loki TV show, I was like, yeah, Loki. I mean, whatever. But he's still a big hitter in the MCU.
Yes.
Um, so he's, one of the top dogs, and this deals with like how it affects the MCU on the whole in a lot of ways.
You're
Um,
you're right. You're absolutely
mhm,
right. I didn't think about that, but technically, if you looked at these three series, well, Falcon and the Winter Soldier should be the one that actually ties the most into the Avengers universe because that's
yeah,
about Captain America. He's the center point of the team.
and they're in the real world.
But yes, but you're right, is the end point of the last movies was Endgame. It
Hmm.
was combat and strife and struggle on a universal level or
Hmm.
galactic level. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier brought us back to, you know, small
The
problems essentially.
the
I mean,
boots
not
on the ground.
small. It
Yeah,
was terrorism across Earth, but when you think about it in
more politics and
but when you think
yeah.
about it in the scope of the entire universe, that was a tiny story. WandaVision
Hmm.
was a tiny story. It was just one city, just one hero right there. Loki, especially now that they're introducing the TVA, which is the most formidable force that we've seen so far,
Hmm.
this is a Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, galactic
Hmm.
scale entity
Encompassing
threat.
everything. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So now this one does feel, you're right, like it ties into the overall MCU a little more than the last ones, which is kind of odd.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so and they have the possibilities of interacting with everyone and anything,
Yeah.
like going through time or seeing anyone
Yeah.
basically. So there's so many possibilities, and the end of this season will definitely will lead us into what to expect to some extent of the new MCU,
I mean,
obviously.
I don't know that they will, but you're right. Now that they introduce time
Yeah.
travel, they can also deal with things from the movies we've already seen. Similar
Hmm.
to Endgame and them going back through movies, they can do more of that here. So who knows?
Yeah. But overall, how would you rate this first episode of Loki?
Uh if we're gonna go on a if we're gonna go on a 10 scale, I'm smack dab between an 8 and a 9, about 8.5.
Hmm.
I don't quite want to give it the 9 just yet because overall this episode was tremendously exposition heavy. I know that it's needed because they're introducing such a huge entity and premise, but so much of this episode read like the beginning sprawl of a Star Wars movie. Like, hey, this is everything that's going on, guys. Here we go. There's people dying. There's agents dying. This is Loki. Okay, here's the TVA. Here's what the TVA is. Here's the timekeepers. We're in the future, and look at this world and all the crazy technology. You see that, and you know what I mean? Like there was so much of just, okay, we need to introduce the audience to what the TVA is. Okay, we need to give a little bit of background on Agent Mobius. Okay, we need to give Loki, we need to catch Loki up so that he's at the same spot that the audience
Right.
is to move this show forward. So it was super interesting, but it was all lore building. And we
Hmm.
didn't get too much into character development yet. We didn't get too much into carrying the plot forward. It ended on a cliffhanger. The cliffhanger of you're the villain and the hero. And
Hmm.
it's definitely interesting. That's why I like it. Why about an 8.5 is solid for me, but it doesn't quite get to the upper echelons yet because I need to see kind of real character development to take me up to like 9s and 10s, I think.
So cool. But because of all those points, that's why I'm going to go into the A minus, the
Okay.
9.0, the 9.0
Okay.
of the episode, just because they did such a good job going over all the beginning questions we have.
Yeah, they
They
did.
did a good job explaining what the TVA is to the most extent, or most of the
I
extent.
I don't have any
The,
questions that it doesn't look like will be answered by the series.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they also like I didn't want to see a whole lot of time being spent on Loki's realization of his future. So they got all that out of the way and brought him to tears one way or the other on how he felt. But so I'm glad that was out of the way and that he was shown the entire truth of his history.
Yes.
So that I really liked, and just this the pace of it. It was like it was all boom boom boom. It's like, all right, what about this? And they answered certain questions. So yeah, that's why it's an A minus for me. It's like, plus it's just super cool. It's like, oh, crazy alien city. We don't know much about it, but we've seen so many alien cities. Okay, sparkling lights, cool. Move on. So,
Yeah, I can't hate on that. I do have to say that the pacing of it was exceptional.
mhm.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so excited for the next one. Hopefully, Michael can join us for the
Same.
next one too. But
Who?
yeah, who?
Michael? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
But that, I
Have to
mean,
get this kid over sometime.
for all of my notes, we kind of discussed everything that I need to talk about with it. I'm just excited to see what happens next and to share with
Yeah,
you guys
same.
as you watch it with us.
Yeah. And Mitch, are you reviewing anything on your own these days?
Oh my goodness. So right now, no, there's actually a little bit of a pause. Got some things in the works. I have
You
some ideas of things I want to get into, but
you
there's
just
a
finished Castlevania,
I
right?
just finished Castlevania.
Hmm.
As the audience that has been tuning in will know, you and I were doing Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
Hmm.
We've kind of decided that we're gonna put a freeze on that for right now. It's just with Loki and it carrying the story forward so much, and the Bad Batch ultimately being
It's
of a
not
different
that.
aim than what we thought it was
Yeah.
going into it. It's not bad. It's just it's very much a case of the week, young,
Disney kid
yeah,
friendly.
kind of a children's show. I
Yeah,
like it,
exactly.
but probably not the best fit for these types of reviews. Loki, however, very
Mhm.
excited for and very
Quite
happy
good.
to see, move forward. And it gives us a lot of talking points. Actually, a reason to watch reviews and recaps of it as opposed to, oh, the bad guy this week was so and so. The end, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Well, tune
guys.
in next week for us. I'll let you sign off, Mitch.
Now
I'm no
that's
talker.
exactly it. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week. We're excited to start this journey with you. See you later.
Later, guys.